the FBI had said, we're going to put you in a kind of witness protection. Where do you want to go? And my parents picked San Francisco because they figured, like, there's going to be a revolution, and San Francisco is going to be the epicenter.
That was Michael Gene Sullivan from the San Francisco Mime Troupe Collective. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco, a show about the artists, activists, and working people who make this city unique. In this episode, part 2 of 3, meet and get to know Michael. If you missed part 1 with Michael's Mime Troupe Collective fellow member, Keiko Shimosato Carrero, please go back and listen to that. Michael more or less grew up in San Francisco. He'll detail his school life, which involves a years-long crush that ended up working out. He also pivoted from wanting to be a history teacher to being a theater actor, writer, and director, eventually ending up in the collective, where he's been since 1988. Here's the SF Mime Troupe's Michael Gene Sullivan.
Both sides of my family are from Detroit. Mm-hmm. And so I was born, this came up recently in rehearsal, everyone had to say where they were born. I was born in Livonia.
Okay.
Which is a small town outside of Detroit and always baffles people.
It's a fun name, though.
Yeah, it is. And it all through elementary school, it always made me sound so exotic. Mm-hmm. I'm Livanese. Yeah. And so my parents were, they met at a summer camp.
Oh, that's so wholesome.
Yeah. When they were
is it?
Yeah. Well, no, it was. I mean, it was the story they would say is that, my father was from, my father's story is in itself weird. But, he was kidnapped as a child and put to work on a plantation in Louisiana.
Oh, my God.
Him and his brothers were kidnapped one day from Detroit. And they were driven all the way down to this plantation in the South. They were there for like 3 years until one day, as he said, this car pulled up in front of on the main road near the plantation, and these people got out and grabbed them and threw them in the car, and there was this beautiful woman in the car, and it was his mother. She'd been looking for them for 3 years.
Oh my God.
They were snatched off of a front lawn in Inkster, actually, is where he was living as a child, and then ended up, it's like, you would think this was like the 1800s, but it wasn't. It was just still happening to black people that their families had gotten out of the South, but there were still people down there who would come up to the North, snatch some black kids, and put them to work down in the Deep South.
That's awful.
Yeah. And so but he managed to make it back. And his
brothers?
Yeah, they got all three of them back.
They all got.
But it always meant that for the rest of his life, they always had a real relationship with their family because they'd been gone for these key years. So my father's family was very wrong side of the tracks family. They were what we would lovingly call today criminals. They were just old style gangsters.
Okay.
Whereas my mother's family were very just like upper working class. They all worked for Ford. And so they met at a summer camp that all these different kids from different socioeconomic levels were always at this camp together.
In Michigan?
Yeah, at Detroit. Mm-hmm. And what my father said was that he's there with his friends and they're sitting on one side of a room, where they bring all the kids together for a dance. Oh, and all the boys were on one side and all the girls were on the other side. Yeah, we know that story. And my mother was over there. Nobody was dancing, and it was very awkward and tense, young preteens. Mm-hmm. And then this girl got up from the other side of the room on a dare from her friends and walked across the dance floor and sat in my father's lap.
Oh, my God.
That was my mother.
Yeah.
She just did it because nobody was dancing, and they were like, what about that boy? He's cute. And so she went over and sat in his lap.
Your parents got together on a dare.
Basically, yes.
I love that.
And so then they started dancing, and everybody else danced, and they got to know each other a little bit. Then they had to separate, even though they were all in the Detroit area. But but next summer, another summer camp, they met up again. And so I think they did that for 3 years. Wow. That was the only time they saw each other. Mm-hmm. And their life paths were going to go a certain way. When I say my father's family were gangsters, they were extraordinarily successful gangsters. Oh, okay. My grandfather, when he finally retired, he bought a mansion and a pro shop at a golf club because he loved golf. he was one of those new, when I was growing up, new Cadillac every year guys.
Yeah.
And I was like, where does Grandpa get his money? And my father's like, well, let me tell you.
I thought it was going to be don't ask.
No. He was just like, no, this is how.
Okay.
Gambling.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That was the kind of, they were gambling gangsters. Yeah. So they met up and eventually they, you know, they fell in love, and my mother's family was very disappointed and really pushed these other guys at my mother.
Right.
Just marry this guy, marry this guy, marry this guy. But she was rebellious enough that she married my father. His parents were like, well, that's nice.
Yeah. What are their names?
Aquilin and Jean.
Okay.
And so Aquilin, an unusual enough name. So they were in Detroit. My father joined the Army as a radio man, and my mother was studying art. And so, so when my father got out of the military, his specialty had been radio, which meant that early radio kind of became computers.
Okay.
You know, because the people who could do that, knew to work with the wires and the tubes and all of that stuff, it started becoming about something else. And so after my sisters, I have two older sisters, they'd been born, and then I was born, only boy, youngest child. Yeah, it made me so popular with my sisters. Then my father got a job at a company called NCR, which people, may still know, National Cash Register. But but it was a period where they were starting to make cash registers more electronic and less mechanical,
and
right?
Whatnot.
And they asked him to move to Los Angeles.
Okay.
And so my family moved to LA, which is a big thing because my family, both sides, they're still in Detroit.
Right.
And one of the things I very much learned, that we who are essentially the children of kind of, even if it's internal immigration, there is such a psychological difference between the people who stay and the people who leave. They can be siblings. They can love each other immensely. But that extra bit of a daring and taking a chance, is so different. They're both very valuable psychologies, but they are so different.
I relate to that. I'm from Texas, and my entire family is all still there. Like, I'm the one who got out. Yeah, and I love them all to death.
Right.
And we get along, but it's different.
Yeah,
like
right.
you're saying, it's a different psychology, a different worldview, a different mindset.
Yeah, it's just like, this is the space, and I don't quite fit here. Let me see what's over there. And other people are like, I fit here fine.
Right.
So my family moved to L.A.
Were you old enough to remember that move?
No, but there is a photograph of me. I was 3.
Okay.
But there's a photograph of my mother and my little head, and she's holding me, and we're on a train because we took the train from Detroit to L.A. And so. And my mother's crying, and I'm just kind of like, hey, waving, And I kind of remember that moment.
Okay.
But my sisters had flew out with my father. I got the train trip.
Awesome.
So moved out here. And when my parents were in L.A., my mother was doing more art. She was studying in L.A.
Visual art,
sculptor and a painter.
Okay.
She did a mural that's in L.A. somewhere. I don't know where.
Awesome.
And my father was working more and more. And this was before Silicon Valley was a thing. It was still oranges.
Right.
And so, but while we were down there, my parents were also becoming more and more political.
Okay.
And so they were going to meetings. The Black Panther Party had chapters down there and speakers and stuff. And so my parents were going to rallies, going to whenever they were speaking out somewhere. Remember, my mother and father went to a one thing where I think it wasn't Bobby Seale, but I can't remember who it was. And he was speaking, and there were other people up there speaking, and my parents were in the first row in this auditorium.
Wow.
And my father fell asleep.
Oh, no.
And someone on the stage pointed him out.
Not his cup of tea?
No.
Oh, no, it was.
He was very into it.
He was just tired.
He was tired. And someone on the stage pointed down to him and said, this brother here can't even keep his eyes open. And my mother stood up and said, this man is working 3 jobs right now, but he still took the time to come to this meeting because that's how important it is. Would you have come here if you had to do that? That is how tired he is. Wow. And he is here to support. And my father later said, I slept through that whole speech. He didn't get to hear it. She reported it to him later.
But Mom, for sticking up for him.
Right, totally.
That's great.
And so, and they took us to a lot of protests. There was a protest that happened in L.A. It's the one that I remember, which was the Century City riots.
Okay. Was this the 60s?
Yeah.
Still? Okay.
And this is LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, was
also
president
from
of the United States. Yes, also from Texas. And he came to L.A. for some convention thing. And there was a march that was this huge march to go to the hotel where he was at. And it was like, tens of thousands of people. And all these families came because it was supposed to be a protest march to show the government that it's not just wild-haired, stinky hippies kind of thing, which, as they were trying to portray it, there were plenty of those people there too.
Sure.
But it was also everyone who was against the war and in favor of civil rights and all of these things. And so my parents brought me and my sisters. So I was like 6 or 7, and we brought our pet rabbit. It was all to prove how we're fairly peaceful.
Yeah.
And it turned into a police riot.
Oh, yeah.
And the police turned on the crowd when the sun went down and chased people around. It's horrible. It's like I still see photographs from it and paintings of people just being beaten by the cops.
It was like riot gear.
Yeah,
stuff.
totally riot gear.
Yeah.
And there was a moment when we were all running away. And I asked my mother, I said, well, why are we running? And she stopped. We were in a little parking lot. And she stopped and she said, look over there. And you see that? And she pointed at a white line that was like 5-6 feet off the ground. She said, see that white line? Those are police helmets. And they were coming our way. And I was like, I totally understood. But my parents were hindered by the fact that they had 3 little kids and a rabbit. And so we were struggling to pick up speed and get away from the murderous cops that were coming at us. And so we didn't know what to do. So we got to the middle of this parking lot. And there were like trees on little islands. And my father just said, climb the trees.
Oh, my God.
So we climbed up this tiny little tree. Our whole little family and our rabbit are up at the top of this tree. And the police passed us by. They didn't see us.
I love this story.
Right. They just kept going. And suddenly we were behind the police lines.
Yes.
And we just climbed down and went home.
Not to minimize it at all, but it's almost cartoonish.
Yes,
Right?
it is.
It's like, how do you get away from the impending doom? You climb a tree.
Climb a tree.
And
it wasn't like it was a huge tree.
Right.
It was just, yes, it was very little. So it's like, I'm just right here and you can't see me.
You went to where they weren't looking.
Yeah, right. They were expecting all of the revolutionaries to be down there. Little did they know. And so we got away.
I love this story.
But my parents didn't back off of that. Then the next year or so, I think, presidential elections coming up. 68 election, and we're still, protesting and talking about this, and as a little kid, power to the people, and my mother starts working for Bobby Kennedy.
I was just going to ask,
the
LA,
real
LA,
Bobby Kennedy. Yeah,
the only Bobby Kennedy,
the sane one, and she was working for him. She was a Kennedy girl, and she would come home and she would have pictures with, as he's coming off the plane and all this stuff, and then the night of the California primary, she was there.
Oh my God!
And she was, Ambassador Hotel, and
in the room,
and
a different kind of room where it happened.
Different, yeah. And so we're all staying up late watching the television. We know he's going to win, and when he finishes and say, "Okay, now next stop is Chicago for the convention," and then. It's over, and they said something happened, and we don't know what, and we're watching and watching and watching. My mother doesn't come home until like early, the next morning, and she's saying this is what happened. They didn't know if he was alive or dead. And after the news came out, he'd been assassinated and he was killed. Then that's when the FBI shows up, because they are interested in whoever they think is a witness, and they think my mother might be a witness, and to cover their ass about what a bad job they did with JFK's assassination, they decide they're going to protect the witnesses.
Okay.
So my mother is snatched up the next day, put on a plane, and sent back to Detroit.
Oh, my God.
So that she will be safe from...
Sure.
Yeah.
This is J. Edgar Hoover's
Yeah,
FBI
right. Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, really. Not the one you want to trust. Not that you can trust any of them. But... So she's gone.
So they took Mom away.
They took Mom. They take her
they
away.
Took Dad
and
before you were born.
We're just there. Yeah, right. So we're just in L.A. And then she's gone for about 2 weeks. Then she comes back, and our parents go, we're taking a trip to San Francisco. Don't tell anyone. And I should say, during those 2 weeks, I was driven to school by the FBI.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, because they wanted to make sure we were safe.
You remember this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
What
being in the big black Lincoln Continental and the door popping open and all my school friends being standing there. And I'm popping out like, hello, how you doing?
Not conspicuous at all.
Not conspicuous at all, yeah. And so my mother.
So now they're like, we're going to San Francisco?
They said, we're going to go to San Francisco for a little while.
On a trip.
On a trip.
Okay.
We never went back.
Yes.
The FBI had said, we're going to put you in a kind of witness protection. Where do you want to go? And my parents picked San Francisco because they figured like there's going to be a revolution and San Francisco is going to be the epicenter. We want to be where the revolution is going to start. They didn't tell the FBI this.
Right.
They just said, Golden Gate Bridge. It's
the
cool.
FBI told them, where do you want to go? And they're like, we know where we want to go.
We want to go.
That's amazing.
So
how old were you, Michael?
I was 7.
Okay.
And so never saw those friends again.
Yeah,
I was just gone one day. Yeah. We moved to San Francisco and we ended up out in the Sunset District. Mm-hmm. And so I started school here. And in some ways, my growing up is like, when I talk to people who are growing up in military families, how much they moved. We moved so often. Even in San Francisco, we moved from the Sunset District to Bayview, to the Western Addition, to the Sunset District, to the Richmond District, to the Western Addition. I mean, we moved all over the city.
But if you did all your schooling here, you are kind of like a born and raised person.
Oh, yeah. The thing is...
Can we hear all your schools?
I have, oh, God. From Francis Scott Key Elementary to, Visitation Valley Elementary. I went to so many different schools. I have a friend who is my oldest friend. He's the person I've known longer than I've known my wife. And he was born in San Francisco, and he always holds those 7 years against me.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, you bastard.
Yep.
You're not really a San... And so... long enough, damn it. And so I went to all these different schools in San Francisco as a kid. Oh, and I do remember one time when I was a little kid, my parents were trying to find babysitters for the 3 of us, and they couldn't find anyone to watch me. So they said, you have to come with us today. Oh. Where we went was a Black Panther meeting in Oakland.
Wow.
To get there, you would go into one house, go down into the basement, through a tunnel to another building, and then up to the top floor where they could see all around. And that's where the meeting was.
Love it.
So it's them and me. And just like play on the ground or something. And so my parents were still very political. My father was now, at that point, he was working in Silicon Valley as a diagnostic engineer. My mother had shifted she had unfortunately had to give up her art and was working in like publicity for different things like film and stuff like that. And then when I got to middle school, I was like so passionate, and my sister and I were very much into a couple of things. One was film, and the other one was history. Okay. I was passionate about history. I wanted to be a history teacher when I grew up. All right. And my sister was very much into film, and we were going to make films together. At one point, we were going to do the 2 black kid version of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Yes. We got the scripts. Yes. We were going to shoot it in Golden Gate Park.
And also a boy and a girl.
Yeah, right.
I love this.
We memorized half the script, and we played all the roles. We were going to rent horses out in Golden Gate where you can, rent horses. Mm-hmm. We had everything planned, and then we didn't do it because we were kids, and we didn't have...
No, don't say never.
No, we didn't have... Yeah, we could still.
It's still sitting there.
We just didn't have filming equipment. If we had, we would have done it.
Right.
So going around doing different things. So I was slightly interested in acting, but one of those people who was a kid that was considered shy. They were wrong. And so when I got to, just as a side note, so going to different schools, and all of my friends graduate from our elementary school, and we're all supposed to go to the same junior high, Marina Junior High. Okay. And like half my friends are girls, half are boys. We all just get into Marina Junior High, and we're from all over the city, very mixed group. And the first day of school, I go out onto the yard, and there's a yellow line down the middle of the yard, boys on one side, girls on the other side. And I went home and I told my mother, I can't go to that school because I don't like that mentality. Mm-hmm. I don't understand it. And also, I didn't like the architecture of the school. Oh. I found it looked like a factory. And it's like, I don't like the art. I don't like the attitude. I never said goodbye to any of my friends. Yeah. Because I was kind of used to that from moving so many times.
Right. So you weren't feeling it?
I wasn't. Yeah, I mean, I now I kind of regret it. I could, if it was nowadays, I'd at least have their email addresses or something. But no.
Right.
And so my mother said, "Well, where do you want to go?" And I was like, "I don't know. Let's look." And so we drove around, and she showed me different middle schools or junior highs, and I saw Roosevelt, and I liked the architecture, and I said, "There." So my mother and I went to the Board of Education, and lied about where we lived, so I could pretend like I lived in that district.
Yes.
And so I got to go there.
Can you remind folks where Roosevelt is?
Oh, it's at Arguello. And it's right kind of middle north side of the city. It's like 2 blocks north of Geary, and it's right at the butt end of Clement. And so really great area, lots of stores and shops and candy. And,
Yes.
And so I started going there, and that was like the last time I made one of those school shifts.
Okay.
And we lived in Western Addition, so I was actually in the district for Ben Franklin, but I didn't want to go to Ben Franklin. I didn't like the architecture either. And so, but by going to Roosevelt, when I was a senior in Roosevelt in band, because I was a drummer,
Okay.
a new girl showed up to school. Suddenly, this like one day, the middle of the year, this new transfer student showed up.
A drop-in.
Her military family had just moved from the East Coast.
Okay.
And they lived on the Presidio, and she was gorgeous.
Yep.
And so I just developed a crush on her, so much so that I couldn't talk to her.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
The crippling crush.
The crippling crush. Yeah. And she kept, she still says, I was trying to talk to you all the time. You wouldn't even make eye contact. And I was like, and I told her later, I said, looking at you was like looking over a cliff. And I felt like once I took a step and fall, I was never going to stop. I was never going to stop falling.
Right.
And so I was like, and it was very scary. So anyway, we ended up both going to Washington High School. And while we were at Washington High School, and I still was not talking to her, but we were both in band, she ended up in a little theater company, Street of Dreams Theater Company. And my best friend was also in that same company. And to be around her more, at this point, I was going to be either a history teacher or I was going to write horror short stories, which I loved writing. I wrote short stories that were so frightening that the teachers wouldn't read them in class.
Oh, yeah.
They would read everybody else's story, but not mine. They'd give me the A.
Like
but they would tell
R-rated, maybe?
No.
Just
it was
scary.
psychologically
Just scary.
frightening and horrible and random. And they were just like, we cannot read Michael's story, but here's the paper and you get an A, which just fascinated everyone else because they'd be like, read it to us later.
Yes.
So I was like, I'm going to write horror short stories or teach history. Or both, because really what's the difference when you think about history?
Right.
And so, but I got into this little theater company to be around this young woman.
Crush.
Who, she was dating someone else at the time.
Sure, but the crush doesn't go away.
Yeah. No. She was on her first boyfriend. Sure. And we were and now by now also, I was not a singer even a little bit. I was shy. I didn't speak out, and I certainly didn't sing.
Just drums.
And I thought, well, maybe I'll do that, but not rock drums, classical concert drum.
Okay.
And then one day I'm walking down the hallway, and again, as a senior in high school, and a teacher pops out of a room and says, "Do you sing?" And I said, "No." She said, "Yes, you do." Literally. And she grabbed me and snatched me into the choir room and said, "Hit these notes." And because I could match the notes, I ended up in choir. Oh, God. So my crush, Valina, was in choir. And so I'm in band with her and I'm in choir with her. So I'm starting to talk to her a little bit more. And then at the last...
I thought you were going to say you couldn't talk to her, but you would sing to her.
God, no. I still couldn't really make eye contact with her. Yeah. And then as a senior in high school, like the last possible moment, I decided to audition for this little theater company to be around her.
Okay.
To be around some friends,
Yeah.
And within, we all graduate. Within a year, I'm artistic director of the company.
Oh, my God.
Because I'm like, the only way I'm going to be included in any project is if I'm pushing them. If we're going to do shows, I want to make sure we're doing shows so I can be with my friends. And if they're doing shows, they probably won't cast me because I'm the least experienced person. And so I start pushing. I'm like, we got to do this. I'm producing. I'm writing grants. I was doing all of this stuff.
Wow.
And and Valina and I had both auditioned for a summer musical at City College.
Okay.
And we're still just friends. And so we're doing cabaret together at City College.
Okay.
And I'm directing shows with this little theater company all of a sudden.
Okay.
Yeah. The founders had left, and I'm doing that. Then, it's a long story. I'm sorry. But then, so we're both at City, and then my mother, when I was a kid, had always taken us to the Renaissance Fair.
Okay.
And so I was like, I want to, and when I was in high school, there was a senior group before I was a senior choir that always sang at the Renaissance Fair and the Dickens Fair.
Okay.
But I had never done it with the school, and that ended. And so some people started talking about doing that again, and I was like, the only way they'll pick me is if I'm doing the one that does it. So I organized the group. I found the people. I got the music. I helped them get costumes, and I'm the tenor.
Amazing.
And so and we did that for years. I mean, we won awards. We were recorded at the Renaissance Fair, the Dickens Fair. We ended up on the radio. So we were doing all this stuff. And it was really just, I was like, no one's going to ask me to do it. I'm the least experienced person. This is my only way to hang out with these people. And then eventually I'd had like a couple girlfriends by then, and Valina had a couple of boyfriends. And then we decided to go out on a test date. Oh. Because it turned out she'd had a crush on me all this time also.
So you both agree that this was a test date.
Oh, yes.
Let's see.
Not only did we agree it was a test date, we were both dating other people.
Oh, God. Okay.
And we told them we have to go on a test date because we were all in the same group. We all knew each other. So I told my girlfriend, I've got to go on a test date with Valina. I am so sorry, but this is what we have to do this. It's just a test date.
Also, being young and having your heart broken, I think is healthy.
Yeah, right.
Like,
she went on to marry this amazing guy.
There you go.
And so and Valina told her boyfriend, who was also super amazing. I worked with him later. I cast him in a show. We went to his wedding later. He's a great writer and a very funny guy. So we went on a test date.
Where did you go?
I can't even remember. I think we went to a movie.
Possibly not there anymore.
No. I mean, I'm sure we went to a film, and we probably went to the Sausage Factory.
Oh, yeah.
That is, we've had all of our major events have been at Sausage Factory, except for conceiving our son. The other ones, that one, strangely enough,
you never know in this city.
The curtains aren't thick enough. So we went on our test date.
Okay.
And then we had a test kiss. Oh. And then we didn't really start dating for like a year after
clinical.
that. Yeah, it was. We are her degree. She's an amazing singer, a wonderful actor and director. Her degree is in counseling. She's got her master's is in counseling.
Yeah.
So we are both very much like, this is the next thing to do. We should try this. So we did the kiss, and then we didn't start dating for like a year after that until the other relationships were absolutely over. I'm sure this spurred that. And then and we were doing shows together. And around this time, my father, I did not grow up watching theater. It just wasn't a thing.
Right.
The only play I saw as a child was Hair.
Oh, yeah.
The Broadway tour of Hair.
Oh, yeah.
And in the middle of that play, if people I don't know how they do it nowadays, but in the middle of the play, when the intermission happens, you're sitting there watching a play, and then suddenly the doors of the theater got kicked open. This is at the Orpheum Theater, big theater, kicked open, and all of these riot police come running in to stop the show. And they come in and they're beating the people on with billy clubs on the stage, and they chase them all off, and then they turn at the crowd, and they've got, riot gear, like mirror face shields on, and they're staring at us, and then the lights come up because it's intermission.
Right.
And I was like, that's amazing.
Right.
Because that was my life.
Yeah.
We were going to all these protests. We'd been running from cops for years now. And so, but I didn't think that other theater could be like that. And my father took me to see a show by the San Francisco Mime Troupe.
Okay.
And he wasn't a theater guy either. He just thought, we're very much into comedy and politics. Let's go see this. And so I saw the Mime Troupe, and I was like, I didn't know you could do all this at the same time. And so I always kind of had my eye on, I'm going to start seeing this company. And then as I was starting to, in college, so I went to City, and then I went to State. And there was a point where... Yeah, right there. And so, but while I was at State, And by then I was still a history major, still studying to be
okay. You hadn't forgotten that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was taking drama classes and doing plays all the time, which really pissed off the people who were in the drama department because who's this guy
Who's this
who's getting these
history major
who's getting leads and doing all this stuff. Right. And finally, there was a point where I realized that I wasn't going to be a history teacher as much as I love history. Mm-hmm. Most of the books I have at home are history books. Mm-hmm. Some are theater books. If I wanted to be an actor, I was already getting cast in local shows. I was paying my tuition, back when tuition was little, by doing plays at like Lorraine Hansberry Theater and at the Eureka and at San Francisco Shakespeare.
Back when you could do that kind of thing.
Back when you could do that,
Yep.
and, And so I left school because I was like, I'm already doing the thing I want to do. Yeah. And after that, doing, school tours, which is an amazing job, and you learn so much when you're doing shows for kids. Because if you can hold an audience of children, you can hold anybody. But then I always had my eye in the Mime Troupe. I had my eye on the Mime Troupe. This is where I want to get to. And like I said, I was working at bigger and bigger spaces, but Mime Troupe. And then I came and saw Keiko was in a show. I saw you guys in the backyard preview of Dragon Ladies before you were going on tour. And then I started to audition for the company around other shows. And then one year I auditioned, and at that point I had been an intern at Berkeley Shakes. I'd worked at Berkeley Rep. I had done all of this stuff. And I auditioned for the Mime Troupe, and they said, "You're too young." Oh. And I said, "I'm never going to catch you. As you continue to age, I will continue to age behind you. I will never catch you." And they said, "Well, thanks. See you later." And I was doing a show with with San Francisco Shakespeare Festival, and then I got a call from the Mime Troupe saying, "We've got an actor that dropped out. Do you want to come in as a replacement actor for a tour?" And I said yes. And I went to SF Shakes, and I told the producer, "I'm going to do this." And he said, "Well, you've got to ask us." And I said, "No, I don't, actually. I'm going to do this. Now we have to figure out how to make that work." And fortunately for me, my understudy was his girlfriend. Oh. And once he realized that, he was like, "Oh, never mind. Yeah, good luck. Have fun with that."
Yep.
And then I went off and did a tour with the Mime Troupe.
What year was that, Michael?
That was 1988.
Okay.
So I've been here a while.
You've been here, but that's just a couple years after Keiko.
Yeah, Keiko was only like 2 years before me, I think. And and she was on my first tour with the Mime Troupe. Keiko was assigned as my buddy.
Oh, I love this.
You did that.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that.
And so, and everyone here, Keiko and I and everyone else, we work other theater companies around the country. We do all of this stuff, but this is still our artistic home. This is the place we come back to as often as we can, and some of us a lot, because the work of the Mime Troupe is so specific and different than everywhere else. And also, for both of us, our partners were members of the company, or are still technically both members of the collective. And that makes life. It's so nice to be able to do a job that you feel passionate about and that you feel is interesting and important and creative, and the person you love is right there.
That was Michael Gene Sullivan. We recorded this podcast at the SF Mime Troupe studio in the Mission. On the next episode of Storied San Francisco, Michael and Keiko share the history of the San Francisco Mime Troupe, as well as what they're up to these days. Part 3 drops tomorrow, Thursday, July 2nd, wherever you get podcasts. Music for Storied San Francisco was produced, performed, and curated by Otis McDonald. Our contributing producer is Aaron Lim of Bitch Talk Podcast. And the show is produced and hosted by me, Jeff Hunt. Now in our 8th season, we have more than 300 episodes available on our website, storiedsf.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If possible, please rate and review the show. I want to know what you think. Find us on Substack for our monthly newsletter and more. And follow us on Instagram and Threads at storiedsf. Reach us there or email us at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Try to stay hopeful in these dark times. Keep being wacky, creative, and kind out there. And we'll see you next time on Storied San Francisco. We acknowledge and respect the first humans of the unceded land we call San Francisco, the Ramaytush Ohlone. We condemn the genocide of these and other tribes across the Western Hemisphere. We honor their legacy and history, and we support rematriation and sovereignty efforts.